Hi guys, I'm Miriam Cutelis, and I am on chapter 4 of Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life and How to Play It. Now, remember last time I told you that my original book got eaten by my parrot? So look at this situation over here. That's what happened to it. So I had to get this new book, in case you notice a new one. All right, let's get started. The power of non-resistance. Resist not evil. Be not overcome of evil. Let but overcome evil with good. All right, that's the quote that she gives out at the beginning. Nothing on earth can resist an absolute non-resistant person. The Chinese say that water is the most powerful element because it is perfectly resistant. It can wear away a rock and sweep all before it. Jesus Christ said, resist not evil, for he knew in reality there is no evil, therefore nothing to resist. Evil has come of man's vain imagination or a belief in two powers, good and evil. I really like that, belief in two powers. We'll talk about it later. Here we go. There's an old legend that Adam and Eve ate of Maya, the tree of illusion, and saw two powers instead of one power, God. Therefore, evil is a false law man has made for himself through psychoma or soul sleep. Soul sleep means that man's soul has been hypnotized by the race belief of sin, sickness, and death, which is carnal or mortal thought, and his affairs have outpictured his illusions. We have read in a preceding chapter that man's soul is his subconscious mind, and whatever he feels deeply, good or bad, is outpictured by that faithful servant. His body and affairs show forth what he has been picturing. The sick man has pictured sickness, the poor man, poverty, the rich man, wealth. People often say, why does a little child attract illness when it is too young even to know what it means? I answer that children are sensitive and receptive to the thoughts of others about them and often outpicture the fears of their parents. Okay. I heard a metaphysician once say, if you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else would run it for you. Okay, I will stop making little sounds. This book just blows my mind. Mothers often unconsciously attract illness and disaster to their children by continually holding them in thoughts of fear and watching for symptoms. For example, a friend asked a woman if her little girl had the measles. She replied promptly, not yet. Okay. This implied that she was expecting the illness and therefore preparing the way for what she did not want for her and her child. However, the man who is centered and established in right thinking, the man who sends out only goodwill to his fellow man, and who is without fear, cannot be touched or influenced by the negative thoughts of others. In fact, he could then receive only good thoughts, as he himself sends forth only good thoughts. Resistance is hell, for it places man in a, quote, state of torment. A metaphysician once gave me a wonderful recipe for taking every trick in the game of life. It is the acme of non-resistance. He gave it in this way, quote, at one time in my life, I baptized children, and of course, they had many names. Now I no longer baptize children, but I baptize events. But I give every event the same name. If I have a failure, I baptize it success in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. In this, we see that the great law of transmutation, founded on non-resistance. Through his spoken word, every failure was transmuted into success. For example, a woman who required money and who knew the spiritual law of opulence was thrown continually in a business way with a man who made her feel very poor. He talked lack and limitation, and she commenced to catch his poverty thoughts. So she disliked him and blamed him for her failure. She knew in order to demonstrate her supply, she must first feel that she had received. A feeling of opulence must precede its manifestation. Feeling of opulence. I like that one. Okay. It dawned upon her one day that she was resisting the situation and seeing two powers instead of one. So she blamed the man and baptized the situation success. She affirmed, as there is only one power, God, this man is here for my good and my prosperity. Just what he did not seem to be there for. Soon after that, she met, through this man, a woman who gave her, for a private service rendered, several $1,000s, and the man moved to a distant city and faded harmoniously from her life. Make the statement, every man is a golden link in the chain of my good. I like that. For all men are God in manifestation, awaiting the opportunity given by man himself to serve the divine plan of his life. So, bless your enemy and you rob him of his ammunition. Wow. These are just one thing after another. His arrows will be transmuted into blessings. This law is true of nations as well as individuals. Bless the nation, send love and goodwill to every inhabitant, and it is robbed of its power to harm. Man can only get the right idea of non-resistance through spiritual understanding. My students have often said, I don't want to be a doormat. I reply, when you use non-resistance with wisdom, no one will ever be able to walk over you. Another example. One day, I was impatiently awaiting an important telephone call. I resisted every call that came in and made no outgoing calls myself, reasoning that it might interfere with the one I was awaiting. Instead of saying, divine ideas never conflict and the call will come at the right time, leaving it to the infinite intelligence to arrange, I commenced to manage things myself. I made the battle mine, not God's, and remained tense and anxious. The bell did not ring for an hour, and I glanced at the phone and found the receiver had been off that length of time, and the phone was disconnected. Wow. My anxiety, fear, and belief of interference had brought on a total eclipse of the telephone. Realizing what I have done, I commenced blessing the situation at once. I baptized it success and affirmed I cannot lose any calls that belong to me by divine right. I am under grace and not under law. Not under law. Interesting. Friend rushed out to the nearest telephone to notify the company to reconnect. She entered a crowded grocery, but the proprietor left his customers and attended to the call himself. My phone was connected at once, and 2 minutes later, I received a very important call, and about an hour afterwards, the one I had been waiting. Once ships come in over a calm sea. Gosh. Okay. So long as man resists the situation, he will have it with him. If he runs away from it, it will run after him. For example, I repeated this to a woman one day, and she replied, how true that is. I was unhappy at home. I disliked my mother, who was critical and domineering, so I ran away and was married. but I married my mother. For my husband was exactly like my mother, and I had the same situation to face again. Agree with thine adversary quickly. That means agree that the adverse situation is good. Okay? Agree that the adverse situation is good. Be undisturbed by it, and it falls away of its own weight. I should try that more. None of these things move me is a wonderful affirmation. None of these things move me. I'm just underlining the whole book, guys. Oh my Lord. Anyway, the inharmonious situation comes from some inharmony within man himself. When there is in him no emotional response to an inharmonious, I know how to say this word, inharmonious, there we go, situation. It fades away forever from his pathway. So we see man's work is ever with himself. People have said to me, give treatments to change my husband or my brother. I reply, no, I will give treatments to change you. When you change, your husband and your brother will change. Okay. One of my students was in a habit of lying. I told her it was a failure method, and if she lied, she would be lied to. She replied, I don't care. I can't possibly get along without lying. One day, she was speaking on the phone to a man with whom she was very much in love. She turned to me and said, I don't trust him. I know he's lying to me. I replied, well, you lie yourself, so someone has to lie to you, and you will be sure it will be just the person you want the truth from. Ooh. Sometime after that, I saw her and she said, I'm cured of lying. She replied, I have been lying with a woman who lied worse than I did. One is often cured by his faults by seeing them in others. Life is a mirror, and we find only ourselves reflected in our associates. Living in the past is a failure method and a violation of spiritual law. Okay, let me just read that over. Life is a mirror, and we find only ourselves reflected in our associates. I got that. Living in the past is a failure method that are in a violation of spiritual law. Jesus Christ said, behold, now is the accepted time. Now is the day of salvation. Now. Lot's wife looked back and was turned into a pillar of salt. The robbers of time are the past and the future. Man should bless the past and forget it. If it keeps him in bondage, and bless the future, knowing it has in store for him endless joys, but live fully in the now. For example, a woman came to me complaining that she had no money with which to buy Christmas gifts. She said, last year was so different. I had plenty of money and gave lovely presents, and this year I have scarcely a cent. I replied, you will never demonstrate money while you are pathetic and live in, sorry, that was funny. And live in the past, live fully in the now, and get, I just can't imagine saying that to someone. While you are pathetic and live in the past, live fully in the now and get ready to give Christmas presents. Dig your ditches. Remember what that means from the last chapters? And the money will come. She explained, I know what to do. I will buy some tinsel twine, Christmas seals, and wrapping paper. I replied, do that, and the presents will come and stick themselves to the Christmas seals. This too was showing financial fearlessness and faith in God, as the reasoning mind said, keep every cent you have, as you are not sure you will get any more. She brought the seal, paper, and twine, and a few days before Christmas, received a gift of several $100s. Buying the seals and twine had impressed the subconscious with expectancy. Okay. And opened the way for the manifestation of money. She purchased all the presents in plenty of time. Man must live suspended in the moment. Look well, therefore, to this day, such is the salvation of the dawn. He must be spiritually alert, ever awaiting his leads, take advantage of every opportunity. I believe leads means like inspired action, right? It's the first time I've heard it in this book. One day I said continually, silently, Infinite Spirit, don't let me miss a trick. And something very important was told to me that evening. It is most necessary to begin the day with the right words. Make an affirmation immediately upon waking. For example, thy will be done this day. Today is the day of completion. I give thanks for this perfect day. Miracles shall follow miracle, and wonders shall never cease. Make this a habit, and one will see wonders and miracles come into his life. One morning, I picked up a book and read, Look with wonder at that which is before you. It seemed to me to be my message for the day. So I repeated again and again, look with wonder at that which is before you. Oh, I like that one. At about noon, a large sum of money was given to me, which I've been desiring for a certain purpose. In the following chapter, I will give affirmations that I have found most effective. However, one should never use an affirmation unless it is absolutely satisfying and convincing to his own consciousness. And often an affirmation is changed to suit different people. For example, the following has brought success to many. I have a wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. I give the first two lines to one of my students, and she added the last two. It made the most wonderful, powerful statement, and there should always be perfect payment for perfect service, and a rhyme sinks easily into the subconscious. She went about singing it aloud, and soon did receive wonderful work in a wonderful way and gave wonderful service for wonderful pay. Another student, a businessman, took it and changed the word work to business. He repeated, I have a wonderful business in a wonderful way, and I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. The afternoon, he made a $41,000 deal though there had been no activity in his affairs for months. Every affirmation must be carefully worded and completely cover the ground. For example, I knew a woman who was in great need and made a demand for work. She received a great deal of work, but was never paid anything. She now knows to add wonderful service for wonderful pay. It is man's divine right to have plenty, more than enough. His barns shall be full, and his cup shall flow over. This is God's idea for man. And when man breaks down the barriers of lack in his own consciousness, the golden age will be his, and every righteous desire of his heart fulfilled. Wow. Okay. The power of non-resistance. Let's cover some of this. See what yes, I've heard about the Chinese saying about water is the most powerful element. And I also like the fact that I think I remember them talking about maybe it's like you put a water in a mug and it takes the shape of a mug, and you put the water in a petri dish and it takes the shape of a petri dish, and that's why they're bringing that up. I love them reconnecting with the belief in two powers, good and evil. And I spoke about that in yesterday's chapter. If you want to go back to that, there's a link down under. Oh, it says his body and affairs show forth what he has been picturing. And that makes me think as a practitioner that I should be working more on the imagining faculty with my clients and with myself. Just makes me think I really should um really practice, my imagining faculty because I feel like I do imagine um more on the negative than the positive. Like I have a new kitten and I think about 100 times a day, I'm thinking, what would happen if she got out? Like that is where my mind is. So definitely working on myself with picturing my cat at old age in the house and totally fine and just working on that because it's interesting that I imagine the worst thing that can happen to my cat, an indoor cat is getting out and maybe not coming back. So um and there the reasoning says that why do kids get sick when they have no idea what they're, thinking? Why do they get sick? And then that it's talking about how they absorb the fears of their parents. Um, I find that as an educator, that is true, that not just the fears, but all the anxieties of the parents. Um, if your parents had a fear that was like a core fear, absolutely, as a child, you are going to be absorbing that fear. Um, um, and again, they reconnect it, or she reconnects with preparing the way. And what does she goes, this implied that she was expecting an illness, therefore preparing the way for what she did not want for herself and child. So again, with my cat, I'm preparing for my cat getting out the door instead of preparing for my cat turning an old age. She's a kitten, becoming an old kitty for, 16, 20 years. And really I should be preparing for that and just that slight shift. It's actually not even slight. It's actually a pretty big shift from what I am, where I am mentally right now with worrying about my kitten getting out. Um, um, a feeling of opulence must precede the manifestation of money. So, going back to Amanda Francis, and again, I'm ever so thankful for Risa for mentioning her and bringing her to my world. And Amanda Francis is an author, and she is also a YouTuber, and you can look her up. And she wrote this book called Rich as Fuck, and in it, she does an excellent job having you understand how to put on this feeling of opulence in order to manifest money. So it is an excellent book to read to if you want to manifest money. And you might even like and I've had friends tell me that even buying the book and having it in their house brings them money. Like all of a sudden, like they'll get money from somewhere. So and it's like within my circle alone, I've heard at least of 3 women in my groups that have said that just even having the book in their space has brought money. So you might want to go get it. Anyway, and no, she's not paying me to say this, by the way. Anyway, the idea of baptizing the situation success. I'm not really familiar with baptism. I did grow up, my family's Catholic. I went to Catholic school. I understand baptism, but when my kids were born, my husband and I chose not to baptize our children. So I'm not familiar with that um, process, but I understand. She explains it beautifully here, despite that. Um, and how you sort of anoint, maybe that's what she means, right? Anoint the situation um differently. You kind of transmute it by and I think the word baptized brings it to kind of a more special level. And I get what she's trying to say. Every man is a golden link in the chain of my good. Wow. I really do need to write those quotes and put them around my house, because I do work in a school or in a situation where, sometimes you get frustrated, and you blame the person who's creating the frustration as, like if they only changed. Or, I mean, we all have people like that in our lives, right? So, and just how that that switch, every man is a golden link in the chain of a good, and switching that in your brain, not just your brain, but your heart. Bless your enemy and you rob him of his ammunition. Mm. And in the last chapter, she does explain like the actual technical way that happens. You know, um how that happens, where you are disempowering the enemy. Um, okay, let's move on to the next page. Um, oh, and I love this. Um, the part about the phone call, and that speaks to me so strongly, because I am a control freak. Like, I need to control every little aspect of things. And you know, if I can't, I kind of have anxiety about it. And I know I'm not the only one. So, um, these affirmations are going to be really important. Like, none of these things move me. That's a beautiful affirmation. Or agree that the adverse situation is good, be undisturbed by it, and it falls away of its own weight. Okay. So this is so important. Running away from something that you disagree with, or that's causing discomfort, doesn't make it go away. All right. So this is so important. And she's emphasizing it here once again, that you agree with it. You say it's good. Like something good is coming out of it. And in that way, you are fearlessly looking at it. And then it falls away from its own weight. Um, So, okay. And then this again, I completely agree with this, that man's work is ever with himself. So, again, all the practitioners out there who are working with clients to try to help them or support them in their either their emotional health or their spiritual health, it's so important um, that the work that we're encouraging them to do is to change themselves. So people often come up, like I've had so many clients who come to me and they're having issues with their mom, they're having issues with their husband, they're having issues with their kids, and and they feel disempowered. And don't feel disempowered. You have the ability to affect change in those people, but not in the way that you thought. The way that you change them is, um, here's the quote. I'm going to read from her book because she says it better. So we see man's work is ever with himself. People have said to me, give treatments to change my husband or my brother. And her reply is, no, I give treatments to change you. When you change, your husband and your brother will change. Um, so um, there's nothing more complicated. There's nothing, it's just super simple. And I know it's like that we want the answers to be much more complex than that, but it's really that simple. So, um, and then the talking about now, and now is the accepted time. The robbers of time are the past and the future. Um, I really enjoy this because I am a past life regressionist. I am a QHHT practitioner. I'm in level 2. And what I have noticed is sometimes people in my world I get really caught up in like who I was in my past life, or what was I in my past life, and this is the life that's the most important. We are the one, this is the life we're living in right now. So regardless of what your feelings or thoughts are about a past life, that is secondary, or I mean, it's like 10th in line as far as what's important. So behold, now is the accepted time. The robbers of time are past and the future. So, yeah, while it's interesting and wonderful to know about our past, we shouldn't really like chew on it full time in the present. You know, we shouldn't be like living in the past and trying to recreate it, maybe even. Um, Leads. They mentioned leads, and there's I've read all her books, so this is the first time in this book where she mentions leads. And leads means inspired action to me, like a lead. And you'll see her using it more and more in the further chapters, hopefully. But um what's a lead? A lead is a book that falls off the shelf. A lead is someone mentioning something that resonates with you on a very physical level. A lead could be a new friend that makes you feel a certain way and you want to explore that more. So a lead could be anything, really. It could be so he must be spiritual alert, ever awaiting his lead. And spiritually alert to me is eating well, is not drinking, at all. Like I haven't had a drink, I don't know. Like I never drank that much, but I haven't drank alcohol for like 6 months now. I take care of my body. I um address my triggers is another part of um be being spiritually alert. What does spiritually alert mean to you? Like, I'm curious. To me, being spiritually alert is just um like everything that makes me wake up in the morning and feel like I'm ready to face the day. And spiritual alert also means acknowledging the energy that I put out. Like I'm an educator, so when I walk into my classroom, I want to feel good because those little ones, they can feel it immediately if you're not in the right space, and they will act up behaviorally if they notice that you are not in your right space. So they're so advanced kids. So what does it mean to you to be spiritually alert? I'm curious. Okay. Um okay. Excellent, excellent tip on how to say affirmations. So, there was one other part in here that is even better. It says, it must cover the ground. Every affirmation must be carefully worded and completely cover the ground. So she's kind of giving us permission to use her affirmation, but if it doesn't quite fit, that we need to make it quite fit. Again, that speaks to us about, alignment. Alignment matters. Alignment is important. And that when we create an affirmation, we write it or we borrow it from someone, we read it. And if any part of it is not entirely covering the ground, we need to change it and shift it so that it does completely align with what we need. And how do we know that? We know that because our body will feel a certain way. Okay. Again, our body. Um, Man's divine right to have plenty, more than enough. Um, Beautiful way to end that chapter. And I felt like, again, I feel like every chapter we read has so much. Like, um, I feel like if she was alive today, I would be her best friend. Really. Wow. I'm just so impressed with the level of uh it's of intensity and how packed of wisdom each chapter is. And I mean, I just read you about 3 pages there. So, yeah. So I'm interested to hear what you think about the book, and I'm hoping you're enjoying these. If you've missed the other chapters, I am including the links to chapter 1, 2, and 3 below so that you can go back and listen to them. And again, I'd love to hear your comments, and hopefully you'll go out and you'll purchase your own little Florence Scovel Shinn book. Super amazing. Anyway, have a wonderful day. I will see you in the next chapter.